Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the webinar today. My name is Cody Woods, and I'm the practice lead of enterprise productivity at Intergen. Really excited to have the chance to share what we at Energon have come up with to enable a modern digital workplace built on Office 365 and SharePoint. As a bit of an introduction, I am based in Auckland, New Zealand, and if you can't tell from the accent, I'm originally from the United States and specifically from Arizona. So I've gone from the hot, dry desert Arizona to the lush, green, surrounded by ocean of New Zealand. Very different, but both very beautiful in their own right. As we go through the webinar, feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat, and we'll answer those as we can throughout the webinar. And if we don't get to it then, we'll be sure to follow up with you after the webinar. We'll also have some contact information that I'll put up in the last slide that you can reach out to me after the webinar for any additional questions you might have. So as I mentioned, I work for Intergen, which is based in New Zealand. We have 4 offices across New Zealand and offices in the United States and Singapore. And then we also have our parent company, Empired, which if you're from Australia, you've definitely heard of Empired, and have locations all across Australia as well. And altogether, we're just under 1,000 people strong. At Energon and Empire, we cover the full breadth of Microsoft technology, from dynamics to data insights, from productivity to custom development, or from digital to cloud infrastructure. And then we offer a layer of services to support all of that as well. So let's jump right into it and first talk about what is a digital workplace. What are those core principles? At a recent technology conference, we at Energon had a tombstone, a life-size tombstone with RIP intranet on it. And what we meant by that was that organizations have and should be moving away from the monolithic intranet of the past, that one-way communication only, away from that static and often stale content that you've seen with intranets of the past. Instead, we think that mobile, personalized, and easy should be those core principles of the modern digital workplace. Let's talk about being mobile. Just as our personal digital lives have taught us, we also expect that we can pick up any device, anywhere, at any time, and get to that which is most important to us. And it's not just about the device, but the way in which our work lives have become increasingly mobile. It might look like having a working meeting with a colleague in a meeting room, or maybe catching up with a client at a cafe, or co-locating teams together in an activity-based working scenario. Now, when accessing your favorite social media platform, you probably don't have to think much about which device is going to get you there. You can just naturally flow from one to the other. You might pick up the one that is closest to you. And in the workplace, it really should be no different. It should be very natural for us to move from one device to another and get to the things that are most important. Now, being mobile doesn't necessarily mean working from the beach, although I would enjoy that. Nor does it mean working at the dinner table when you should be focused on your loved ones. Rather, it means allowing you to be effective at the right time and the right place. With the incredible amount of information bombarding us continually today, it's got to be personalized and relevant. So the internet's biggest bandwidth usage is Netflix, and it offers thousands of movies and TV shows for 60 million subscribers in over 40 countries. Yet when I go there, I'm offered up content that's relevant to me. And when my kids go to their profile, they're seeing content that's relevant to them. We need that same thing in the modern digital workplace. Another example is as simple but effective is the recent documents within Word or PowerPoint. They're your documents or ones that you've opened up recently, and they're likely relevant. Now, internets of the past have also been very much a one-way street. News and documents for you to read, kind of pushed out to you, curated. But then, of course, there's been a little bit of that back and forth where you can maybe submit forms back. But the modern intranet needs to make sure that employees have that voice back to the organization, but then it also needs to make sure that they're connecting with each other, bringing those employees together. That's why something like some of the social tools that are out there and offered up in Office 365, things similar to Facebook, are so effective. Why are they effective? Because they take those communities of interest and they share expertise and experience together in very much a way that mimics the way we do it in our natural social conversation with people. So that modern digital workplace, again, needs to facilitate that to bring the right people to connect with each other. As our lives and workplaces have become more digital, we've come to expect a lot more from them. Our digital personal life is filled with apps that make social interactions more fluid, and they record these fluently, and they can be referenced and rediscovered effortlessly. These are the things that we just expect to work, and they're just easy. And our modern digital workplace has got to be the same way. So most people you'll find in your organization are just going to take the path of least resistance. So if what we provide staff is hard to use, they're going to go looking for something easier. And that's a lot of times where shadow IT gets its foothold. If what we provide is easy to use and it helps them get their job done, then they're more likely to use it. It's also got to be something natural that they work with. So a great example of something easy and natural is OneDrive for Business, and especially the new sync tool. It synchronizes your files from OneDrive or from SharePoint down to your local computer. Then you can use those files just as if they were like on your C drive or in My Documents, as we've been accustomed to in the past, and they synchronize back to the cloud seamlessly. Really easy to use, very natural for people. Now, often many people feel like they've taken the step back in time when they go to the office. Maybe they have to VPN to access files, or even worse, they actually have to be in the office just to access files that they need. In the modern digital workplace, it's just got to be a lot easier than that. I've got to be able to access those files seamlessly and easily without those difficult roadblocks to get there. At that same time, it still needs to be secure and satisfy any of the compliance requirements you might have at your organization. That needs to be done in such a way that the burden isn't pushed over onto the user, and really when it comes to security, the user shouldn't even have to know about what's going on or think about or take special actions to make that work. It should just be seamless for them. With Microsoft's Office 365, you've got all the building blocks for your modern digital workplace that's mobile, personalized, and easy. If you have Office 365 already, you know that there are many services offered in your subscription. You've got SharePoint to provide many capabilities often used in an organization homepage, for example, or for document management or collaboration. And you've got new collaboration tools like Office 365 Groups and Teams that build on SharePoint, and I will be showing Teams a bit later. With Yammer, you've got a powerful enterprise social platform. And for your personal file storage, you've got OneDrive for Business as well. And there are many others delivering just a number of different purposes. Individually, each one is easy to use and provides a mobile interface, either through the web or a mobile app. But we've seen many organizations just struggle to pull all of that together into something that really makes sense for their users. So at Intergen, we've created an Office 365 digital workplace accelerator called Snap 365. It's a jumpstart to help you start taking advantage of your investment in Office 365 more fully. Snap 365 is that single pane of glass over Office 365 and brings it all together. It's that place for that your staff will start their day. It encourages a discovery of new and relevant content that's personalized to me, and meaning that's something that I care about. It also promotes communication and collaboration, that interaction that you really want to foster in your organization. And of course, it's going to be available anywhere, anytime, from any device. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at Snap 365. I'll switch over to demo here and take you through that. So here you can see the Snap homepage. This is a SharePoint page, and the functionality you see here is all done using Microsoft best practices without touching the master page, for those that know what that's all about. So there is quite a bit going on here, and I'm going to step you through and take a look at each of it from left to right and explain through it. So in this scenario, I'm logged on as someone named Julian Isla, and you'll get to know him quite a bit more later as I do some more demo at a day in the life of with him. So beginning with this left column, you can see this What's Happening column. This is using Office 365 social capabilities of Yammer, which includes, in this case, it's including the corporate news and communication, and right along with the personal Yammer feed as well. So you can see this all company post here done by Karen Berg. This, for many organizations that we've been working with, has replaced their corporate comms rather than having a dedicated news page or news feed. it all comes into Yammer. So it takes those personal communities of interest that I'm a part of and pulls it together in one place. And so this reminds me of my wife when she uses Facebook. Um, she comes to me and says, I learned about this news article. Now, she doesn't follow news directly, but through her Facebook feed, she's able to pick up a number of different important news articles and news happenings going on right along her other personal interests, and she gets it in one feed. So you can see that same thing happens here on Snap. One thing we've seen with Yammer is that often it fails when it becomes another place to go. You get that initial excitement with Yammer, and then you get that sophomore slump because often it's another place that people have to go. By moving it right here onto the front of your digital workplace, the home page, it makes it really easy for everyone to get there and use it. In fact, when we were developing this, the two developers that were working on this ended up starting to use it quite a bit because it was so easy. It was right there as they were working on this development. With this Yammer feed, what we've done is made it so you can drill in very quickly, and this is custom beyond what Microsoft have done. This is something that we've done here at Intergen, but I can drill in and see those communities of interest that I'm a part of very quickly and just drill into them or go back into my overall feed. So the next column here is the Discover column, and this is leveraging the Microsoft Graph, which takes the activities and the connections that you have and uses that to learn about you and what it thinks might be relevant to you. As we talked about earlier, there's so much information, it's got to be personalized, it's got to be relevant to you. And so what the graph does is it takes all of these connections and activities that you've done and says, this is what I think might be most interesting to you. You see this manifested in Delve, and so this column is similar to what you find in Delve, where it takes the connections that you have. So if I look down here, as Julie and I have connections with Kelly and Karen and Diane and Alan, you can see these different documents that it thinks that I might be interested in based on my connection with them. Those connections could be based on the organization chart. So for example, as Julian, maybe Karen actually reports to me, or I have a colleague next to me, Diane, we're at the same level. Or it also could be that I collaborate with these people and work with them on different projects. So for example, with Alan, perhaps we trade emails often. And so behind the scenes in the Microsoft Graph, it has these connections and then says, this is what I think might be most interesting to you. So to make this homepage again very dynamic and relevant, we've taken that and pulled that right in and allowed users to see what's going on around them and what might be of interest to them. Is it always perfect? Does it always show things that are of interest? No, but a lot of times it does find things that are pertinent to your job or that you should be aware of and brings that up to the surface. The next column we have is the My Work column. Now think of this as, let's see, my recent documents that you see in Word or PowerPoint or Excel, but across all of Office 365. So it doesn't really matter whether those documents are, what type they are, of course, but it doesn't matter where they are either. It could be in your OneDrive or in a team or in SharePoint, something else you've been collaborating. Somebody could be sharing a document out of their OneDrive, and you've made an edit, and you would see that here. So again, it gets you back to those documents that are your documents, the one you've been working on most recently. So here, this Singapore market demographics, which we'll see a little bit later, is coming from one of the teams that I'm a part of, whereas this Excel document here is coming from my personal OneDrive. So getting me back to the things that are most important to me very quickly is quite powerful. And again, it makes this relevant to me on the home page. The next column, My Places, is related to my work, but rather than being the specific documents that I've been working on, what it's doing is taking the places that I've been working in most recently and getting me back to those very quickly. So I can drill into a folder, or it might be within my OneDrive, and I can click on these and I'm back to those again very quickly. So everything within this center section is all personalized and relevant to me. It's something that is also dynamic, that just comes naturally. There doesn't take anybody curating it. Many intranets, as your intranets might have been there, often people lose interest in them because they stop being dynamic. That the content becomes stale because there's no one keeping up the news articles that are there or the documents. And when I come back, 2 or 3 months later, I don't see anything new, and it stops being a place to go. Whereas what we've tried to do with Snap in the digital workplace is that it's your digital workplace or your user's digital workplace, and so everything here within the center section is relevant to me and personalized, and then it's dynamic. Everything from the Yammer groups that I've chosen to be part of, so it's something that I want to see there, to the documents that I'm working on, or those that it thinks it might be relevant to me based on my activities. However, we still need to afford organizations the ability to get out some of those controlled documents, those behind-the-scenes intranet type things. So what we've done is we've built a very immersive mega menu that feels modern and natural for people to use. So I click on here, and now I can get to all those other places that I need to go to. So this does become that gateway or that portal into all the different places that your users need to go. And I have my major links here across the top, and this is touch friendly as well, so it can be used on a tablet. And then what we've tried to also do and help organizations think about doing is using that natural language rather than calling a particular system the name of that system, the technology name of it, rather putting friendly names onto the links that they need. So when someone new comes into the organization, they don't have to know what something is called. They just need to know what they want to do. For example, your request leave system might be the same one that you're booking travel in, but because they feel perhaps like two different things, all I have to know is what I want to do, and then I can click on that. In addition to that menu, we also have a quick links that slides out, and here you can see that I have additional links, and these can be grouped into different sections. I might have something that is related to my department, and then we also have where I can add my own personal links into the quick links and get to the places that I need to go to. So I've got both that organization view and then also a department view and then my own personal side of things as well. Now you might be asking, okay, this looks great, but what about the mobile side of it? So we've already talked that how important mobile is, and so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab this, and I will show later in the day in the life of actually on a mobile device, but just to show you how this works. Now with Snap, we decided not to just do a responsive design, which would have stacked, maybe the left column at the top, and then stacking each column underneath the other, where you might end up with quite a long scroll. Instead, what we've done is turned it into an adaptive design. So you can see as the screen resolution comes down, the functionality actually changes on the page. So if you think of this as like a tablet view, you can see I can get into those columns turn into tabs instead of just stacking on top of each other. And so I can quickly get into that. So let's shrink it down a little bit more, down into maybe a smartphone size, and you can see how that works. So still get to my Yammer feed. I could use the Yammer app, but right here on my homepage, I can get to it very quickly, and I've got those tabs to get into the Discover, the My Work, and My Places. My menu still functions here as well, and I can slide back and forth with my finger. And I can have fat fingers and it still works. I still have access to search from here, and of course my quick links as well. Now that we've had a good overview of Snap, I want to take you through a scenario in which we can kind of show where Snap and the power of Office 365 come together, and where you can really have that single pane of glass, and how your users can have that digital workplace where they flow naturally from one part of their work life to another, and how things can be very seamless for them using Office 365 and Snap together. So Julian starts his day off by going into Snap, and he's going to get caught up on the What's Happening feed, his Yammer feed, and see what's going on here. So he'll first catch up on that all company message, and then he wants to drill into his communities of interest. So first he'll go to the resellers, and sees the conversation happening here between Diane and Kelly, and needs to chime in, make sure that they have some additional data from Molly. And then he's going to go ahead and post that into that group. Wonderful. All right, next he's going to jump into his product feedback, and he sees a message here from Sanjay and a reply back from Kelly and Krista. And he's just going to interact with us a little bit. Go ahead and like Kelly's message, and go ahead and also like Krista's. And then you can see there's a recent update from Molly where she's replied back to Krista. And yep, that sounds like something that is important. So he's going to go ahead and like that as well. And so you can see very naturally he's able to, right here on his homepage, interact with that, with his Yammer feed, and get to those communities of interest, plus the corporate communications that's coming through. So as we take a look at the documents that Julian sees in his Discover panel and in his My Work panel, we've got a number of things related to the M400 RFP site and team that he's working with. And you can see these different documents, and we can drill into these and take a look at that. But what I'd like to show is just going over to My Places, since he's been working in there, to show some of his recent places. And from here, we're going to drill right into one of those teams directly from the homepage here. So this is loading up in the web app, but Teams also does have a client that can be installed, and you can use that for some additional functionality. But here you can see it just here within the web app. So those same documents that we saw on the home page, we see right here within Teams. Again, Snap offering that single pane of glass, pulling things together and getting me to the places that I need to get to very quickly. So within this team, I can see I've got a few different channels here, and I'm going to drill into the new markets channel, which I'm here on the files, and then I'm going to go into the conversations and see some of the things that are taken. Just letting his team know that he's going to be working with Emma on coming up with what the project dashboard is going to look like relating to this proposal that they're working on. So he's just going to post that into the team and get that out for everyone. So we can see here that there's also been other conversation happening among different team members. We can span this out. We can see that Julian's been having a conversation with different team members, and you can see the links to the same documents that we showed earlier within the Teams area that different team members on this team have been accessing and updating. So one other thing that I'd like to quickly show around the power of Office 365 and some of the great updates that have come out lately is around the offline synchronization of files. And this applies to not only your OneDrive for Business files, but also files that live within SharePoint, which is behind Office 365 groups and the Teams. So these files, Julian has synchronized offline so that he can access them no matter where he's at and whatever internet connection he has from this device, this laptop. So here you can see those files have been synchronized into a folder, and I've got access to them. If I lose internet access, I can still have them because they're synchronized down locally to my machine. And I can choose which files do come down, which folders or files come down and are synchronized offline. So I don't have to have all of them, but just the key ones that I need access to at any time. We're just going to jump back over to the conversations now, and Julian's going to jump in and just thank everyone for their good work on this, and then he's going to jump into one of the files. So now that Julian has chatted with his team a little bit, he's going to jump in and prep for a meeting that he has coming up with Emma. He could click on this link here to OneNote, or he could go up to the link here up on the top tab and get to that. So I'm going to click on that. He's going to drill into here and just prep this page before he heads off to meet with Emma and talk about this project dashboard that he's going to work with her on. So just a quick note. And he'll be off. So Julian's gone off to meet with Emma, and they had a great meeting, and now Julian's just hanging out at a cafe, grabbing a bite to eat before he heads back to the office. And as many of us do, as we're sitting there eating, we might pull out our mobile device and just check a few things. So Julian's just going to open up his Snap home page and peruse some of the conversations that have been happening on the Yammer feed, and you can interact with that right from his mobile device. As we showed earlier, he also has access to the full menu from the mobile device. And you can jump into any of those places that he needs to access, including the quick links, and he can even jump over into do a search or anything like that. So now that Julian has gone through and taken a look at the Snap homepage and gotten up to date, he's going to take the output from his meeting with Emma and get it into a OneNote. Now, many of us, when we're in a meeting with someone, we have a whiteboard and we mock something up, and the first thing we do is take a picture with our mobile device. And Julian's done the same thing, and I'm going to show you an alternative way than the way that we normally would do it, which is emailing it to ourselves and then trying to figure out what to do with it. So Julian's going to bounce over to the My Work tab on his mobile device here. Go ahead and click on that. It's going to launch open into a new window, launch that OneNote, and he's going to edit that in OneNote, and it will launch the app on his mobile device. So this is the OneNote that he had already started and taken a few notes with. And here he's just going to insert that image that he had taken from his phone. Here we go. And if you haven't seen this in OneNote, you do have the ability to make a whiteboard actually look like a whiteboard. And so we're going to drop this into the dashboard. Great. It's ready to go. So now I've got to let my team know about the mock-up that is in the OneNote now. So I'm going to jump back over into the team conversation and do a quick reply. I'm going to ask Molly Clark if she will go ahead and mock something up for me. All right, cut and paste that in. So now that Julian has that sent over to his team, we're going to see a response come in back from Molly because she happens to be on the line right now, and letting him know that she'll put something together and get it back to him. Following his meeting with Emma and his brief stop at the cafe, Julian has now headed back to the office and has loaded up Snap onto his laptop. And we can see here that Molly has already gotten something together on the project dashboard that he sent over, and now Julian can jump in and take a look at that with Molly. So we're going to go ahead and load that up and take a look and see what she's been able to accomplish. Looks quite a bit better than the whiteboard that we started with, but we do need to add a bit to it. So let's go ahead and jump in and make those edits now. We're going to do it right here within the browser and add a title slide to this. Let's go ahead and we can see that it looks like Molly Clark is editing this. One of the great features of Office 365 is the co-authoring or the concurrent editing capabilities that it has. So she must be doing something at the same time. Go ahead and add my title slide in. And let's go ahead and move that right up to the top. And get the project dashboard. And it looks like there Molly's changes have popped in as well. Looks like she's added some phases to the project to demonstrate that. Great. That concludes our day in the life of Julian. And so although the demonstration has been quick, I hope it's shown you how Snap 365 can bring together those great services in Office 365 into a single pane of glass and really pull it together for your users into that natural, modern digital workplace that's mobile, personalized, and easy to use. We're running a little bit short on time here, so the next couple of slides I'm just going to spend just a bit of time very quickly, just touching on some of the things we see coming in the near future. First is kind of a solidification of teams and Yammer and how they're going to really be used by organizations. There has been some confusion in there, but we see that starting to solidify more around Yammer being used for those asynchronous, non-project specific conversations, really just bringing social about, perhaps for some projects specifically, they could use something like Yammer. But for the group and project collaboration, we see teams really starting to be the stronger player there. And with some of that functionality there really plays nicely into that. Power Apps and Flow, for those that are aware of that, didn't have a chance to touch on this here, but we really see those hitting their stride this in the coming months. There's already been some great improvements there, but we think that will just really start to take over here in the next few months. A little bit further down the track, chatbots, although they are out already, we see them being more mainstream and in their practical usage. And a great example of that is Hyperfish. Go check out Hyperfish and some of the things they're doing. I think it's really cool there, using chatbots to help keep your AD info, like your contact details, up to date. And that happening in a very natural way. And we see the same thing with forms and workflow, that's going to be a more natural user experience and more conversational in nature rather than just a straight form, and starting to see that happening more in the market. And then finally, My Analytics, although it's out already, and there's some pretty cool things there. As more information and as Microsoft figure out how to capture some of those trends that are happening within Office 365, see that being of greater and greater value for organizations. Well, that brings our webinar to a close for today. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here and listening to this. I hope you've gotten something of value out of it, and even sparked some interest in some of the things that we've spoken about in the modern digital workplace. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You can see my email address up on the screen here, cody.woods@intergen.co.nz. And then also we've got a couple of web pages up here that if you just want to go and have a look at some of the information we have available, feel free to do that. Again, thanks, and look forward to hearing from some of you about any thoughts or questions you might have. Thanks.